I've been thinking about a lot of different things recently. Just to, as a disclaimer, and it also is in the about bit of this channel, I'm not licensed. I've not got a degree in anything, basically. I'm just an ordinary person just stating viewpoints about different topics that I want to talk about. And if you're willing to listen and you want to listen and you want to hear some opinions and thoughts and have an opinion on my opinion or an opinion on anything really, then you can do. And you can listen. And depending on how they go and how I feel about them, I'll do more. If not, then I won't. I just thought I might as well put my viewpoints out there. So the video, it's not really a video. I mean, you are watching me play a bit of a game, but not really. That's what it's about. But the video, anyway, I'm going to say today is based around the idea of God and, you know, the kind of purpose of human beings around the idea of God, how we should be acting, how you know, whether there's any truth to God, things like that. So the main thing that I was looking at recently, I've been getting into a lot of philosophy recently, and things of that nature, is that it suggested that. Let me just go with my ideas first. Like I'm not exactly religious in the sense that I believe in a God, a being, per se, in the sense that there's someone watching over us, choosing our life and choosing how things go. I don't believe it in that sense. I believe more that God is he is a being, but not of more of consciousness than actual body. He's more of a thought, in the sense that, yeah, it's just a consciousness, if that makes sense, rather than just being like a person that's just there going, yeah, cool, do that, don't do this, this is how I want you to live. It's more of a joint unified consciousness. So at least that's where I was before this kind of thought process that I'm going to kind of take you through today. So the first thought that I was working with is that God is within us all. So there's this idea that God himself, I don't really know how it's supposed to work, because I think the Bible can really be interpreted in different ways depending on who's reading it for certain aspects of it. But it's essentially that God is within us all, which I guess to some extent could be true. I was actually watching some video. I think it was between a guy called Tucker Carlson, I think his name is. Someone can correct me if that's wrong, and I think it was an interview between him and Ben Shapiro. And we were just talking about different ideas, and it's not really about the video that I'm referencing. It's just a line that he said, and he was talking in terms of God, and he was suggesting that, and it may have just been a passing comment, but he said that our parents are very much like gods to us as children, because they essentially govern what we can and can't do. They have pretty much a limitless control, more or less, on what we can and can't do. But at the same time, because they are our parents, they have a duty of care over us, in the sense to keep us safe, in the same way that a god can pretty much make us do whatever they want us to do. They imply the rules, but at the same time they have this duty of care over us. And I thought it was quite interesting that he said that and drew the similarities between a parent and a god. So from that, it was quite symbolic in the sense that us as humans, in a certain aspect, fulfill the same role as a god in some aspects, assuming that we believe that that's a god's role in in essence. It's quite interesting as well. I mean, I know through these points that I'm going to be making are going to be unrelated, but overall they will relate to each other once we get to the end. So, because this is how it happened really, it just kind of happened as jigsaw pieces being placed in front of me, and I kind of ended up collating them together to create a bigger picture. So the next one was things like superhero films and any sort of fiction with a protagonist. The humanity of the character seems to be kind of exploited in a way to kind of suggest that maybe exploited isn't the right word, more highlighted. Highlight is probably a better word. The humanity of the character is highlighted as one of the key qualities of the character. It's something that makes the character more grounded, let's say, and more of a hero because they adhere to this humanity that they have, however that's defined. And it was just quite interesting how, because I'm quite into like subliminal messages being put in places and like key hidden meanings for things, and I just found it interesting that humanity plays a big role, like it's a big key part, and a lot of people will just say, oh yeah, it's just because it's people find it in the film industry that people enjoy it, but why do they enjoy it? Why is it a key part of the film industry to kind of draw on the humanity of a character? Usually it's done to show quite powerful characters and show a flaw within their character, which is their humanity and the fact that they still have this kind of what they try to draw on as a strength. It's quite interesting. So then it was actually Thor. I think it was Ragnarok after. Yeah, it was, because Ragnarok is where they destroy the Asgard, and obviously Asgard being another kind of another kind of heaven in a sense. It's kind of demonstrated to be like a kind of heaven, the main world where Odin rules, really, the main god. So it was kind of weird to hear that. I think it was Odin that says that the world, the heaven. I'm going to say heaven instead of Asgard, but heaven is where the people are, not the actual place itself, which in itself is quite interesting because what is it that the people possess that means that that's where it is, that's where heaven is. Heaven is where the people are. And I was just kind of stringing these things together, and I thought, well, perhaps it's the faith of the people. It's the faith in heaven itself that keeps heaven within the people, rather than heaven being a particular place. Hence why we can't find it. It's not a place we can actually get to, because essentially we have to create it in a way. Which brought me on to my the next part. It kind of goes nicely into the next part, which is I was watching it was just a quick interview, I think, with Ricky Gervais, who said, I think he's quite a strong atheist, and he says, isn't it convenient that we are born into the right God? And it was something that kind of stuck with me at the time, and I was a bit like, oh, that's kind of true. We are always born into the right God. You're born in Ireland, you're a Catholic, and it's a Catholic God. Pakistan, you're more likely to be Muslim, India, Hindu, things like that, and the gods are it's kind of convenient how you've been born into the right God. And then I kind of attributed that to that line out of Thor Ragnarok, which was that heaven is where the people are. So, assuming that you're always born into the right God, maybe those two go hand in hand in the sense that it's the people that create the heaven. It's something about the people. So if the people is where heaven is, it's also kind of weird how they all have their own gods as well. So it also brought me on to the start of the universe, like God created, the earth and things, and I was like, maybe putting together with my idea of what God is, and that is a kind of energy, either consciousness, but what consciousness? And we're made in God's image. Perhaps what I'm saying is that God is the energy that created the universe. We stemmed from that, so that's how we are created in God's image. Our bodies are not us. We are the soul within, which is the spirit, which is energy. we come from God. That's how we were made. Our consciousness created God, and God's consciousness created us. God is the unified consciousness of us all. As people, the true power, essentially, is what I'm saying, is the true power is faith in ourselves and faith in each other, in the sense that it's our consciousness that creates things. We do have God within us, as God is the consciousness that created us, and we have a part of that consciousness. And when we all believe the same thing, we create things. Hence, we create our gods. We create our own kind of paradise, which will be the heaven that each religion believes in. And I think in the world today, and the reason people don't see that is because there's a lot of overarching powers and leaders in the world that kind of want to divide and conquer, so we can't do these things that we would normally be able to do, in the sense that I think it would make sense to how there's been so many gods, in terms of Greek gods, Norse gods, Roman gods, Hindu gods, Egyptian gods, all these different kinds of gods based on a lot of people having the same belief. And I think that's where it kind of lies, is God isn't an actual being, it's more of a consciousness, and we've just personified the consciousness to suit how we understand it. And that would explain why so many gods have different personalities, why there's different gods for different things, because we, as people, we have unified our thought in a way to get the best out of the lives that we live. I think it's easier now for people to divide us because of things like racism, things like religion, different policies and immigration, allowing people in, having all these different things to argue and discuss hatred and anger towards different opinions and different things. I think it promotes this lack of unity, really. And this lack of unity is what we're not on the same page, we're not all working off the same hymn sheet in a kind of in a sense. And I think that kind of more diversity is the problem, in the sense that we're not unifying ourselves to the same goal. We don't have a common goal or a common law, in the sense that because we're not unified, our minds can't unify. We can't create our God, because we're not all unified. And I think back in history, I think we've been better at being able to unify our thoughts and what we want. It's like, I know it's off fiction, again, off Doctor Who. There's an episode back when David Tennant was playing the Doctor, and he was against the Master, where Martha Jones is his accomplice, let's say, went round and told everyone to think of the word Doctor all at the same point, and this kind of unified hive mind of human beings managed to save the Doctor and give this Doctor this kind of power. And all of these different things, I mean, they're in different films, it's all these kind of ideas that kind of patched together to make a bigger picture, in the sense that all these ideas, all these patterns and numbers and things all link together. And they all link together because we are created from a consciousness that we call God, and a lot of us see as being a person in the sky, when it isn't really. It's just the energy that created us, it's the energy that governs us, because we are made of it, and it is made of what we're made of. It's just that our bodies are different and we look a bit different. It's strange, really. It explains a lot of things. It's like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, when Peter Quill sees his father, and his father's a consciousness of the planet, and Peter's part celestial, and he has the same power, and they can create and they can destroy, and they have this pure power. And after the Source goes, his father ego, he still has a celestial DNA, but he can't use it. He's not got another person to get the power from. He hasn't got another person to sustain the power that he has. And I think that it's quite interesting when you piece things together in the sense that, well, no wonder we don't have the power, because all of us are not unified. We don't have to be hardly socialised anymore in terms of social media and technology and things. We're losing our humanity in a sense. It's quite interesting that all around us we're being desensitised to the things that actually are quite big parts of what we should be. So my idea is that God is a consciousness that we have to uphold. God is the unity of our thought, hence why probably there's different chapters in stories like the Bible and things like that. There's a different kind of God, because our ideas and our beliefs that were unified changed slightly, and changed over the years to make him more powerful, to make God more seeing or loving and things, because that's what we needed. And it was essentially the consciousness that we created, because we feed into it and we feed from it. Whether that's the same as God in the Galaxy 2, where it's a consciousness, whether that's consciousness of a planet, whether that's just a consciousness that started the universe and we just feed in and out of an infinite energy, I don't really know. But all these things strangely come together to create a bigger picture, and it would explain a lot of things like the divide and conquer methods that are used to split us up, all the fear mongering that's going on, so we can't really keep the high positive energy that we should be having. It's just spreading us further out, so people that do have a common interest are more powerful over us. If we unified as people, it's literally around us all the time. The power should be with the people, literally, because our thoughts and our ideas and our mind, if we all had a common goal and all, I guess it's why the Bible has rules as well. Maybe it's not exactly how we should be governed, but maybe it's people working off the same beliefs. So if we all work on the same beliefs and work from literally the same hymn sheet, then that will unify us in mind. And unifying us in mind is what will get us towards this paradise world that we've been looking for, which is heaven. I even had the thought about Jesus. Where does Jesus come into it? Perhaps the Virgin Mary stayed with the Virgin, because the Son, Jesus, was created back when our minds were unified in a sense, and they were unified to create a Messiah that would save us. Perhaps the same energy that we used to keep him alive in his resurrection. Same thing, unified minds. But it's weird to think that there's nothing more powerful, there's nothing more to humans. We're just here. Just something to think about. Feel free to comment what you think about it. Obviously, if you don't believe in it, then there's not much to say. You just don't believe in it. You don't believe there's a God, you don't believe there's anything else. I mean, I guess you can put your opinion why. And if you do believe in it, what parts do you agree with? What parts don't you agree with? And we'll see if we can get another video about another topic up for next week. Other than that, that's it. That's all I've got to say. Bye bye.